Good afternoon, Mr. Mbongwe.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice. Good afternoon to the Commission.
I'm almost embarrassed to apologize to you because it has almost become the practice that we keep candidates waiting for too long, but nevertheless, we're sorry.
Apology accepted, Chief Justice.
Yes. How are you?
I'm well, Chief Justice, and how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You have been an attorney for many years, am I right?
That is correct, 36 years.
Is it 36 or 26?
36.
36. And for how many terms have you practiced? Acted, I beg your pardon, as a judge?
Just over 2 years.
Over 2 years.
That is correct.
Very well. I'll leave it there. And colleagues, may I just have the names of those who want to put questions to Mr. Mbongwe?
Any Kane?
Schlemmer?
Mbongwe, Mpofu.
Sing.
Thank you very much. JP, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice. Good afternoon, Mr. Mbongwe.
Good afternoon, JP.
My spreadsheet suggests you've acted for a period of something like 109 weeks.
That is correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify the 2 years you gave the CJ. You actually started acting in 2013.
That is correct.
And now and then you've come. You've been before this commission before?
Twice, yes.
Twice already, yeah. Just before I go further about what you've done, I think in your first interview, there were issues that were raised about your temperament and about one judgment that went to the SCA. After your second appearance here, you then went into a cooling period and then you've started coming to act again. Do you think there's a change in the maturity of the Mbongwe we see today?
Very much so, very much so.
I can agree. I've been watching you since you've come back. You've done a fair share of your own heavy lifting. I see you've done a whopping 26 weeks in the unopposed motion court.
That is correct.
It's one of the most difficult courts that one can find. And you've done the urgent court work 4 weeks, as well as the opposed motions. You've done 7 weeks.
That is correct.
Right. In the full court appeals that you sent in, did you write any of those full court judgments?
Yes, I have. Including, including last month, yes, where I was called on short notice to close a gap of a judge that was unable to attend to those matters. I wrote 2 judgments in those 2 full court sittings.
Yes, and you've always been on hand should, especially when you're sitting in the criminal trial court, should your matters not go on for a day or 2, to raise your hand for extra allocations from the DJP.
I've done that.
I see.
That is when I observed that there is particularly the ADJPs.
Yeah.
My chamber was very close, so I could see the streamline of people that were working. So all I did was to get inside and talk to the clerk and say, tell the DJP that I'm available.
Yeah.
And in that matter, I managed to assist.
Yeah, as a permanent judge, one wants to sit far away from where the JP or the DJP sits. I hope you won't change that attitude of sitting near them if this commission recommends you. Chief Justice, I've got no further questions for this candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, JP. MEC?
I'm also covered, Chief Justice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Advocate Kane SC.
Good afternoon, sir. You would have seen there's a review by the GCB, and they detail a number of criticisms from appeal courts against you. In particular, the SCA criticism in the Naidu matter. I presume you're aware of it, and I want to just give you the opportunity to explain what you would do differently if you were in such a case again.
In response to that, I must say that we actually dealt with this matter in the interview. I hope President Maya is listening, because after I'd given the explanation of what transpired, she actually took time. I think the commission on that particular day was chaired by the CJ's the previous deputy. She understood what I said. She actually came to say she understood the explanation and accepted my apology. I'm actually surprised that it has come again. In any event, I did say that subsequent to that matter, I had a discussion with the JP and gave him certain undertakings that there wouldn't be any such thing happening. And I'm happy to say the JP has called me to come and act. There has never been a repeat. Otherwise, had there been any complaint, surely the JP would say, I failed to keep my word. No, it has changed me. It has actually, that matter has molded me. The judgment in particular molded me.
Yes, that is indeed what I was hoping to hear from you. Now, similarly, pertaining to the 2016 review, there were apparently at that stage complaints from advocates that you descended into the arena and you refused to listen to argument and be persuaded by judicial precedent. Have you, in your view, have you changed the way that you deal with your matters and the way you deal with counsel since that time?
You know, that came in 2015 interview, and there has never been any complaint after that.
Have you changed the way you?
That's an indication that I had to change, and I changed.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Counsel. Professor?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Sir, I'm to your right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you mind sharing with us your judicial philosophy, please?
Yes. My philosophy is we live in a democracy, constitutional democracy. In whatever matter I preside in, the very first thing that comes to mind is one has to make sure that uphold the rule of law and the Constitution with its Bill of Rights. In a way, it's looking broader at the matter, the matter beyond the issues themselves, to say that I have to make sure that I'm acting within the confines of these, the Constitution as well as the Bill of Rights.
Thank you. I would just like to come back to the GCB's comments. It seems when I read it that there's a little bit of a concern with some of, well, the knowledge that you sometimes have of particular areas of the law. There's a fairly old reference to prescription, but then there are also more recent references to instances where you were overruled on appeal. And then there's a concern about the fact that it seems that's the impression created, that you're quite reluctant to allow appeals to your judgments. Would you mind to comment on that, please?
Yes. When it comes to appeals, if I've given judgment, the person applies for appeal, for leave to appeal. It's not. I don't think there's a judge who gives each and every application I have given. Unfortunately, I must say, I don't have too many matters where there was an application for leave to appeal. I don't have too many. So it cannot be said to be a tendency. The other question is about knowledge, whether it is questioned. If you look at the judgments that I've written, it's about 80 judgments. You'll pick them, most of them, on safely. It's different aspects of the law. It's matters that are in various aspects of the law. I haven't had a problem of dealing with any single matter that perhaps I did not understand what was happening. That has never happened.
Thank you, CJ. I'm not going to belabor this point. Maybe some of the other commissioners have questions.
Thank you, Prof. Advocate Mbongwe, C.
Thank you, CJ. Good afternoon, Mr. Mbongwe.
Good afternoon, Advocate Mbongwe.
Unjani? No, Sapi. Now, okay, my questions are usually long, so I only ask one question. Otherwise, the CJ won't allow me to go on. So I want to ask you about fusion of the sidebar and the bar in particular. But I wanted to start by saying that, you know, in the judiciary, there was a time, as you know, where it was believed that judges should only be drawn from the ranks of senior counsel, and attorneys were not appointed. But I think that since those days, judges like Mlambo, Lidwaba, Mujapelo, Matoko, Sisekhampepe, and Daisy Mulife, and other people have long finished that myth off. But as far as the profession is concerned, there is still this division, and there is a belief, I think, or even an air of superiority on the part of advocates, despite the fact that attorneys like you have acquitted themselves on the bench. Do you believe that the struggle for fusion should be carried on or should be abandoned, seeing that those of us who are fusionists lost the battle in the current LPA, when the current LPA was drafted? And what would that do for access to justice if we were to have a fused profession? Assuming you support fusion. If you do, if you don't, of course, you tell us why. Thanks.
I actually do support it. I think the breaking of the barrier between the sidebar and the bar, it is very important. Actually, it's long overdue. It is correct what you mentioned, that unfortunately we had a situation where you find that members of the bar would sort of look down upon attorneys. And the same thing applies when you start acting as an attorney. You don't get the same respect that an acting person coming from the ranks of advocates get. But with time settled in the or on the bench as an attorney, people tend to. I guess it has to do with the work. You have to prove yourself that you know what you're doing. Only then do people sort of accord you some respect.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you very much, C. Honorable Singh.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice. Good afternoon, Mr. Mbongwe. Buisa. How are you this afternoon, Mr. Mbongwe?
I'm very well, Commissioner.
Good.
I'm
Thank
glad
you.
that you called me with my clan name.
Yes, no, I know most of them. Yeah, you know, I'm a Zulu boy. Chief Justice knows that. Mfana KwaZulu. Mr. Mbuisa, I note that you have gained some experience and exposed to commercial matters and litigation when you had merged and practiced as a partner at Moody and Robertson Attorneys.
That's correct.
You held your own company, and then for 19 or 20 months, you merged, and then you went back to your own firm. Just a bit of history of what caused that merge and then go back to your own company? Thank you.
Yes. When I wouldn't really say what caused the merger, I was approached if I was willing to merge with the firm. To me, it proved to be an opportunity to be exposed to a wider range of legal work. When it comes to the separation, it was a different thing. I actually, from the beginning, drove towards the goal of introducing more Black people. I was one partner, one Black partner amongst 10. There was resistance at some point, despite the fact that we agreed initially. So I wasn't really happy. And furthermore, we had a big client of us, which was the city of Johannesburg, pulling work from smaller firms where you find that juniors who are looking up to you come to you and say, but by being part of that, you are depriving us of the opportunity to get work. And it really sticks. The fact that my goal could not really succeed of bringing more people. Ultimately, I decided I cannot push it any further, and I decided to reconstitute my firm.
No, thank you very much. A very good reason. I mean, 12 years into democracy and people were doing that just to use others, as a stepping stone for themselves. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mbongwe. You're excused.
Thank you, Chief Justice.